Hi, everybody. Good morning. Very nice to meet all of you, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be tuning in from. Very excited to be joining you guys today for Global Hack Week AI and ML. My name is Kari. I'm a brand new MLH coach here, and I am going to be talking through some development tools and techniques within Swift and SwiftUI that I personally have a huge interest in. So I'm very excited for you guys to be joining me on this fine day, wherever you happen to be in the world. Super excited for this. Like I mentioned, I'm a very new MLH coach. This is actually my first live stream. Woo! So we're going to be getting started in just a couple minutes. Going to turn off this little branding, and yeah, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about Swift, about mobile development, about a bunch of really cool stuff. So let me go ahead and just kind of get a good feel. How's everybody feeling today? How are we doing? How's everything going? See a bunch of people in the chat. Love to see y'all. Wonderful. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started very quickly with sharing my screen. We're just going to go ahead and go to a view here on Xcode. So just kind of to give everybody a little bit of an introduction, we'll be doing a project in SwiftUI today. So that means that we'll be working within Xcode, which is an integrated development environment, also more commonly known as IDE, within SwiftUI and Swift. Or it's an integrated development environment made for developing with SwiftUI and Swift. Also, technically, Objective-C, you can kind of use it for a wide variety of things, but today we'll just be going through how to get started on a project. So first things first, I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Which perfect. Just to make sure if everybody can see this okay, we'll go ahead and open up. Oops. We'll go ahead and open up Xcode here. So this is just a blank version of Xcode right here. And what we can do is we're actually going to start with a brand new project. So today we'll be building out a project from start to finish. Today we'll be building out sort of a minimum viable product for the a minimum viable product or an MVP for the project. And then we'll go ahead and work through some additional, I would say, fun features at my workshop tomorrow from 8 to 10, which you should all be there if you haven't been there yet. So we're going to make an application today called Sleepy Time. And Sleepy Time is going to be a tool that we're going to use for pretty much creating a good application. What am I saying there? My bad. Sleepy Time is going to be the name of our iOS app that we're going to make today. Why Sleepy Time? Because this will, at the end of the product, be partially a sleep journal and a sleep tracker for you to use. So we're going to build out a fully fledged application during our time here, and then we're going to go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes. So let me just go ahead and check this project out. Should be good. All right, cool. Let's just see over here. Having some issues with my screen, I think. Yes, I am. Got it. All right. Let's see over here. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. Just a second. I never added the screen to the stream. Oh, well. we're living and we're learning. You know, it's my first time doing this, so hang tight with me as we get figured out on some technical difficulties. So fun. All right. Let's see here. If I click this and then I shrink this, can everybody see my screen now? Yes. Perfect. Okay. Amazing. All right. Awesome. So like I was saying earlier, and what we can do is we can follow along. Here we have Xcode. Pretty much, yeah. So I see some comments from everybody. Hi, everybody. Really quickly, yes, I know it's a fully black screen. We're on my we're on my splash screen, which I'm a little emotional. So it's all pitch black. But if you can see this bottom bar here that says like Xcode or Google Chrome or has Zoom on there, you're in the right spot. So I saw somebody comment about what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to give a brief overview while we're starting with the project again, because, you know, we're getting situated. But if you don't have Xcode, now is a great time to go ahead and install it. You can find it on the App Store if you have a Mac. If you don't have a Mac, I will say outside of the scope of this tutorial, like you can figure out ways to get Xcode or develop with Swift and SwiftUI. I won't be really going into details for it because it's a lot more complicated. But today we're going to be building an application in SwiftUI using CreateML, which is a built-in machine learning training framework that comes with Xcode and easily integrates with Swift projects to be creating sort of sleeping journal. And so in part 2 of the workshop, we'll be going more into the journaling bit. But today we'll be getting started with a super simple minimum viable product that will let us go ahead and train some data set based on, you know, the time you went to bed, your desired wake up time, how many hours you want to sleep, and how stressed you're feeling. And then based on that, we'll also be able to then go ahead and create, just use that data set to then figure out, you know, what our optimal wind down time is. So we can go ahead and get some rest, have an overall good time while we sleep. So that's our goal for the project today. And we'll be focusing on that first part today, walking you through all the tools. If you've missed this is my first ever live stream, so I'm very excited to be here. But we'll go ahead and get started with Xcode. So as you can see here, right in my top bar, we have File, Edit, View, Find, Navigate, pretty much like all of our features. We'll be starting with a new project today. So this is how you create a new project in Swift. For our purposes, we'll be going with an iOS app. So just something that will run on, you know, a physical device, something like a cell phone. And we'll be going for an app, and we'll click next. For product name, we'll be going with Sleepy Time. Like I mentioned, this is our little sleep journal application that we'll be developing. Your team and organizational identifier do not really need to be anything specific. I'm just using my Kari from MLH here. We'll be using SwiftUI today, just because it's cool. I really like it, so we'll be stick with that. So naturally, we'll be using Swift with that. You know, unlike if we click on the storyboard feature, we'll have the option to choose between Swift and Objective-C. But for SwiftUI, you kind of need Swift. We'll be using core data for the second part of the project. So the stuff that we'll cover roughly in day 2. But if, you know, you just kind of want to get started into a blank application, then you definitely don't need to check this. If you're planning on sticking around for day 2, then I suggest checking this box, because otherwise it's going to be hard to add in later. And then, you know, we'll host in CloudKit. We'll leave that unchecked, and include testing. We'll also leave that unchecked. You know, we are just making a project here for our development purposes. But as you can see here in MLH, I already have a little Sleepy Time folder that was just me testing around. So for me, it'll say, hey, Sleepy Time already exists. Do you want to replace it? I personally do, just because we're, you know, running through this live stream. And then boom, we have, you know, a SwiftUI application, which is, in my opinion, pretty cool. So this first part here is the default view you'll get when you launch an application in SwiftUI. So specifically when using core data. So this allows for persistence, which pretty much means that if we close out of our app and then reopen it, these like sort of views will go ahead and stay. So as you can see, we have February 23rd at 11:12 a.m. Some information about some items that were created at the specific time. And then we can add some items, remove items, edit items naturally. You click on it, the option delete, and so on. That's the basic. That's the basic. For getting the code, somebody just put in the chat, how do we get the code? If you just start a new Xcode project with core data, you'll get this exact same code. We're going to be working through this template just because it's easier than for everybody else to follow along. And also it makes it easier for me to just kind of walk you through some extra features. So yeah, we'll go ahead and walk through sort of the structure of a SwiftUI application. So we have the Sleepy Time app, which is sort of our general view for what happens when we start the application. So we create a persistence controller, which pretty much is a tool or a class that we can use to share data across different aspects. And then we have a body, which conforms to some scene type. And then within the view, we launch the content view and we say, hey, we have some managed object context. I want to make sure that these go into my persistence controller under a container, under a view context. So you're like, okay, what does all of that mean? Luckily, we really don't have to worry much about it. Pretty much what happens is that if you click right here on the Sleepy Time, like I would say, like this is a persistence controller. And in here you have entities, right? So if you go back to our content view, we had, some items. Each one of these is defined as an item. And so it says item at February 7th, so 13:36 a.m. That's where I'm at. It's wonderful time this morning. But yeah, so if we go back to the Sleepy Time container, then you can see we have an item entity, and that item entity saves a timestamp. So that's how our app knows to save our entry from 7:14 or 7:17 or anything like that. You're not super late, don't worry. We are just getting started. If you want to catch up, you can do File, New, Project, and then you're just going to go ahead and do Application, and then check core data, and then you'll be good to join us right where we're at. We had some technical difficulties getting started in the beginning. Somebody else said if I could increase my font size. I'm going to go ahead and try really quickly. Oops. Themes. Yeah. Perfect. I found it. Let's do. That might help a little bit for the font on the right-hand side. Hopefully that helps. And if not, I'll just try and make sure that, we're being a little bit more, just talking through our instructions a little bit more. But yeah, awesome. I'm so happy to see all this interaction. It makes me very happy. Like I said, for those of you who missed it, this is one of my first streams, and my first time working with MLH. So very, very excited for the community. Love MLH. So very, very excited to be here. But yeah, let's run this application on a phone and kind of see what that looks like. So if you can see here, we're on a simulator. So a simulator is just, a digitized version of a phone that we'll be using for running our applications and tools. So right now we get to launch an application, and that gets to kind of show you what happens when you create a journal. So let's say I'm going to create an item, and it says item at, February 7th, 7:52 a.m., right? And then if I were to create another item, it will say 7:16:01. If I were to go ahead and delete this item, then that's that. And then I were to press done, we just get that item relaunched. But if we go back to our application, stop it, and relaunch it again, what you'll actually see is that it'll relaunch with just 7:16:01. And I just went ahead and paused it again just to force it to build out for us. But you'll see soon that once it loads up, you'll see 7:16:01. Yeah, perfect. So that's sort of the bare bones structure that, yeah, Xcode is an IDE. Um, you do not need a background in app development. I'll be walking through pretty quick, like pretty slowly through like the main features. If you start Xcode with core data enabled, you'll get the exact same project that I can see on the right-hand side once it relaunches, or the exact same project that you can see here, which is just in the simulator, which is just, a view here that has the ability for you to add an item, remove an item, edit items, and then click and see more features about the item. We'll be walking through all the other things that we'll be working with today. So that's kind of the exciting part about developing with Swift, at least in my opinion. Not that I'm biased or anything, but developing with Swift, in my opinion, is just super rewarding because it's very easy to get started and it's very easy to hit the ground running with just a general idea of, basic idea of programming concepts. And yeah, awesome. So just so we can go ahead and get started, we'll be working on a whole separate view today. Like I mentioned, we have a second part of this workshop coming up tomorrow from 8 to 10 Central Time, at least here in the US. So whatever time zone that is for you, that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. But for today, we'll actually just be going through and working on an entirely different view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a toolbar item right here within. So I'm on line 32 of my content view. So this is the view that's created when you launch the application. And so we're going to create a toolbar item. And I have a placement of dot navigation bar leading. And what that means is just kind of telling you, hey, I want it to be on the leading side of the navigation bar. So in our case, that's going to be on the left-hand side here. There's different cases where it wouldn't be on the left-hand side necessarily, but in our case, it's going to be on the left. And then we'll do button with a title and an action. So we can do, let me go ahead and pull up some of my little resources that I have here. I went ahead and kind of worked through some parts of these earlier, but taking a look at this, we have, add item, select an item. Alrighty, I'm kind of seeing it over here. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and modify this a little bit. So we'll do, for the toolbar item, you have the placement. So within here, we'll do a button that conforms to a specific action. We'll define this action in a bit. And then for the label, we'll go ahead and do, for the meantime, we'll just go ahead and add the action as add item. We'll do the label as enter rest log. And then we'll do a system image of, let's do, there's a moon one, but I forgot what it's called. Let me figure that out really quickly. What's the moon system image called in SwiftUI? Or just in iOS. They have one that's like shaped like a little moon. I really like that one. I like using it for a bunch of stuff. At least here it's pretty useful. What pretty much I'm looking for is, as you can see, there's a system image here that's plus, and I could use a different system image than a plus. So just to show you, if I put in system image plus right in here, then what I'll do is I'll create another button that pretty much just adds another item. It actually does the exact same thing as this button right now. except the only difference with it is that it has a label called enter rest log instead of a label called add item, except we can't even see the label because we have a system image anyway. So let me pull up system images. Yeah, they're SF symbols. That's what they are. Okay. And yeah, I want the list. Okay, perfect. So Command Shift L. Yes, wonderful. Okay. So we can go ahead and look at the symbols using, so I just pressed Command Shift L, and then you can look at all the symbols, and you can see all of the symbols that you can use. There's more than 3,000 of them, and they all do a wide variety of different things. So we're gonna go today for, I want something to, that says sleepy time, right? It feels sleepy. So let's figure out, do we have a sleep? We have a sleep circle, power sleep. That's what the moon's called. Okay, and then let's go into sleep mode. We'll call this, and then we'll change this symbol to power sleep. And then now look at that. It's shaped like a moon. Fantastic. We'll be able to go ahead and get started on that. And now what we do is if you press the moon, it still does the same thing. It just adds a new item at that specific time. So like, that's not very cool, but we'll make it cool in just a second. So as you can see, this button has an action right now called add item. And instead of using add item, we'll be moving to a different view. So we'll be moving to a different view, and that will just allow for us to go ahead and change some stuff up with the way that we kind of navigate this. So we'll do, for button action, we'll have so we'll create another private function called navigate to view, and that will just take in no parameters, same way. So what you can kind of see is that you have private func and item, and that's how we determine what to do. So we'll change this one from add item to navigate to view. And then we'll do a navigation link, which is just a way for us to switch between different views in SwiftUI. So what is this error? Type of expressions ambiguous without more context. Well, yes, and then we'll be adding the destination in just a second. And so you might be wondering, okay, but like, what's our destination? And the truth is that we have to make it ourselves. So we'll be actually working on an entirely new file, which I think is kind of fun. But so what we'll do is we can do file, new file right in here, or even the sleepy time directory, we can do new file, which I personally like that second option, just because that way it's exactly where I want it to be saved. So we're doing a new SwiftUI view. And just to make sure, what did we call we called it sleep mode. So we'll call our view here sleep mode. So we'll be creating a new SwiftUI view. And what this means pretty much is that, it's going to conform to the SwiftUI class. So it'll come up like a SwiftUI class looks. So we'll call this sleep mode view, and it'll just leave all the settings as default. It'll conform to everything that we need it to. And then I'm just going to drag it in here so that I can have it in the same direction. So as you can see here, what it does is that, oh yeah, now I have to replace the navigation link, and I'll replace the destination with sleep mode view. Hopefully it'll work perfectly fine. Destination. Okay, give me a second. Got navigation link, destination, label. Actually, we'll do the navigation link that conforms to title and destination. So we'll go to sleep mode. And we'll change our destination to be sleep mode for you. And let's see, results of navigation link labeled initialization destination is unused. All right, let's figure out why that is the case. I accidentally added a breakpoint, so we'll just delete that. But private func navigate to view, navigation use sleep mode. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, let me think about why that is for a second. In the meantime, we're going to hop off, take like a 3-minute break just so I can get some water, get this sorted out super quickly because I can't, for some reason, can't find something that I'm looking for. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes. Hang tight. And thank you for joining me on my first stream. I much appreciate it. All right. See you in a bit, everybody. Hello, hello, everybody. Go ahead and figure out here what I'm doing real quick. I got it. All right. Hi, everybody. We're back. gonna go ahead and get rid of the be back soon banner because we're back. So really quickly, sorry about that. I was a little silly and I forgot to go ahead and enable something. So that was a little unfortunate, but we're back. And now we can go ahead and get started again. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on sharing my screen real quick. We'll just pop this out here, close that, and then go back into our little development application. So we'll reopen Sleepy Time, my little project, and then go ahead and add to the stream. Perfect. There we go. So like we were in just a bit ago, just to get back into the weed of things for a tad, what pretty much happened while I was there is that I forgot to enable something, and that made things a little bit more complicated. But it wasn't anything with the actual code or the actual like aspect of things, so we should be all good on this end. At least I think we should be. For some reason, it's still not showing on my end. But I wanted it to show me. I had things pulled up on like next to me so it would be easier for me to walk through stuff. But I can't see it, which is so unfortunate. Oh no. But pretty much, let's see here. For those of you who are just coming in or generally are like, what is going on? This is my first time doing the live stream, and I had things pulled up on the other side that I was going to use, and then they're not behaving the way that I would like for them to behave, which is always very unfortunate and such a shame. So yeah, I did get rid of that action. I am aware actually, but would like to. I think when I made my text bigger, I only made some of my text bigger. I'm noticing that right now. So go ahead and, yeah, I did do that, didn't I? Let's go with presentation, dark. That should make text a little bit bigger for everybody. Ah, that was so much better. Okay. And then what we'll do is now I remember I have to add the navigation link in here. And then navigation link has the destination and the label. So the destination will be our sleep mode view. And then the label should just be label of title and should just be go ahead and you'd be able to use power sleep. Perfect. Okay. So to talk through what just happened, in case you're very confused, because I was too. Pretty much, here's what we just managed to accomplish. We are within the default file here on SwiftUI. We're on line number 32, right? And what we did within this project is, so far, this is what we started with when we first got in here, right? It was just this view. We can add, we can delete, we can edit, and then delete like that. We can press done, we can press add again, bunch of very cool stuff, right? So now what I want to do is for this first part of the workshop, we're going to go to create a new sort of icon. We're creating a sleep journal, and one of the parts that we'll be working on is to, be working through and creating a new view all in here. So the first thing that we'll be doing is obviously being able to go to that view. So we created a new navigation bar within this toolbar up here. So just conforming to what we already have. And we link it using this thing called a navigation link to our new view, which we just made, called the sleep mode view. Just says, has a little screen. It says hello world. Very riveting. And then it has a label and a system image called power sleep, which is how we get the little moon symbol. And then when we click on it, you can see hello world. And then we'll be going through and actually working through this view for the rest of our workshop today. And we'll be actually, for this next part, we'll be working with something cool, which is create ML. So how we get create ML is we'll actually be opening developer tools right in here. So we can go to open developer tools and then create ML. And that's going to open up this whole other view. And as you can see right now, I need to show you where to get your files, don't I? Yes, I do. All right. So we're going to cancel this. We're going to go ahead and remove this super quick so I can show you where to get y'all's files. So do a new window. And then gonna go to GitHub. And the reason why we're going to go to GitHub is because I put the files on GitHub and then I never downloaded them myself. Silly me. All right, so back to business. As you can see here, we'll go ahead and stop the screen. So now what you can do is you can head to this screen right here. And I'll add this to stream super quick. What you can see is there is a lovely little GitHub account made for this purpose by me called Kari-MLH. That's me. I'm Kari-MLH. And within that, there's one repository. It's a public repository. It's got sleepy time files because we're working on sleepy time. Very, very creatively named by me. And so there's two things in here. There's a README that tells you what data set we'll be using in part 1, which is this part. The sleepy time stress data set, which can be found directly in this repository. It also says about some places where I pulled the data set from. And then in part 2, we'll be using a different data set, which you can get at a link. But for this part of the workshop, we'll just be starting with the other data sets. So we'll go ahead and just for here, I, just stopped sharing my little screen. So don't worry about that. But we'll go ahead and I can download those files. For me, I just press that code button on the top and then I press download zip. That way I just have access to them right within my downloads folder. I'm just going to go ahead and move them to my MLH folder just so they're within the same spot, at least for me. And then go ahead and just show you what that looks like for a quick second. If I can get my stream back up again. Woo, so fun. This is actually really exciting. I'm having a great time. Although it is much harder than I thought, like everybody makes this part look so easy. But for me, I'm like, everything feels brand new. So we'll go ahead and share my Finder window really quickly. So as you can see, this is my little Finder window. It has, some stuff in it. I got to add that to the stream. Again, I keep forgetting to do that. But yeah, you can see this is my little Finder window. And here we have sleepy times main. And here we have sleepy time stress. So when we'll go back to create ML, which we'll do in about 2 seconds, I'll go back to my MLH folder. And then back into my sleepy time files main. And then we'll go ahead and, stop that. And then let me see if it'll let me share just that. Perfect. Yes, it will. Ah, lovely. starting to get the hang of it. So as you can see, what I just did is I pressed Xcode and then I pressed, what did I just do? I just disabled something. Okay. But pretty much what I just did is not at all, doesn't really matter for the, like what I'm actually trying to talk about. So we'll just go ahead and on the bottom of Xcode, what you can do is you can control click or right click or whatever like your right click is, and then click open developer tools. And within that, it says create ML. And that opens up this gorgeous little document like view, in which case, you know, you can find an existing create ML project or you can create your own. In our case, we'll be creating our own. We'll do create document and boom, it suddenly reset it again. That's super annoying. But you know what? It's fine. We'll share my screen. Go to, why will it not let me share my create ML? Oh, it will. There we go. Okay. So I can go ahead and share that and then add that to the stream. So we just pressed in the create ML. We created a new document somewhere within our stuff. So for me, that was just, you know, with my project. And we have image classification, object engine, style transfer, actions, hand actions, activity, sound, text, tabular classification, tabular regression, and recommendation. For the purpose of today, we'll be going through, you know, just one of these types, which is actually going to be tabular regression. On tomorrow, on Wednesday, at least for me, tomorrow on Wednesday, in my second part of the workshop, we'll actually be going through the text classification. And so that will be classifying different words as positive, negative, or neutral, which will be pretty fun, I think. But tabular regression will just allow for you to loop through that file and learn some stuff from it. So let's talk about this file. So we'll call this sleepy time sleep mode. And the author will be Kari. I won't provide a license, anything like that. Leave it as is. Go ahead and go to my MLH folder and just go ahead and save it right into my sleepy time. Pop it in there. And then boom, suddenly we have this whole thing, which looks a little intimidating. You know, we got some projects, some model sources. I'll go ahead and rename that to sleepy time sleep mode for the model source right there. But we'll be adding training data. So this is a really cool tool within SwiftUI, at least in my opinion, that allows for you to make like a natural language processing model or a training data set just with no experience, honestly. Personally, I'm a big fan of that. So thank you for posting a link in the chat. I love that. You're so I appreciate that. Yeah, github.mlh, github.com/karimlh/sleepytimefiles. Thank you guys. Much appreciated. But yeah, we'll go ahead and just pop into here and we'll pop in. I should explain that better. So within the training data here, we have a little plus sign. We're going to click the plus sign. We're going to get MLH. We're going to go sleepy time files. And we're going to click on our CSV file. We're going to press open. Now it says there's no target selected, which is true. But we can go ahead and, training data. That's where. So we want to pretty much test our data. And so in order to figure out, okay, what are we actually like training our data set on? We need to know a bunch more stuff about it. Like, what is this data set? So we're actually going to open it up really quickly. And I'll talk through what's in it. But just to go ahead and get it open, hopefully, except it opened 3 times. So there we go. We'll share my screen to my numbers window. But yeah, so within here, as you can't see yet. So you can see now on my numbers window, we have some data about things that we, are going to test some information is useful for a sleep journal. We have the approximate time that we woke up, this in seconds, I think, starting at midnight. So, it's not trained with time zones. It's not super smart, but it's a data set and it works. And there's 10,000 things in it. So for ML purposes, that's not that big. For like my purposes, that's 10,000 logged days of sleep from other people. So, it would take me quite a long time to catch up to that. So I'm appreciative. And then estimated sleep, which is how much they kind of wanted to sleep. And then we have stress, which is how stressed they report being that day from a scale of 1 to 10. And then we have actual sleep, which is how much time in seconds do they actually spend sleeping, based on their estimated sleep, their actual sleep, and all that jazz. So we'll go ahead and close out of this window now, and we'll go back to our ML training model. And so we'll go ahead and share my screen again, and we'll go back to my sleepy time sleep model. And for our target, we're going to use our actual sleep as our target. And then that is just going to be what our data set is going to train. And then for our features, we're going to say, okay, I want this to train itself based on Okay, hello everybody. I think we're back. Sorry about that. I've never had campus issues with Wi-Fi, but here we are. So I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen really quickly. And we left off at the part where we were trying to select some features. So we clicked on our target as actual sleep, and our features, we went through wake, estimates time and stress, and just selected all three of those. And that allows us to see our training data, which, as you can see, it has 10,000 items and features and just one target, three features selected. And then we have, we can add, some additional testing data, but we don't have any for this. We can add some validation data, which it'll split up automatically from our training data. It'll just take a subset of that. And then it has some parameters for our algorithm. There are some different types of algorithms here. For our purpose, we'll just use automatic because, at least with our little tiny data set, it'll provide the best tools and resources, at least for us. And then, yeah, we'll go ahead and press this train button right in the top corner here. Very exciting. But that'll just go through and process in about half a second. And then we can go ahead and take a look at some previews and outputs. So within our training here, or our evaluation, we can take a look and see that, we had, we trained at 7:44 a.m. over here. With maximum error of 700 and a root mean square error of 177, which is just like 3 minutes off in terms of our actual sleep, based on our stress levels, which I would say is a pretty good deal. Like, if I can get my sleep down pat to 3 minutes, I might be pretty pleased with that. So that's kind of our main part of the training here. So we can preview some of our data. If we had a natural language model, then we could type in some text here. So we'll be doing tomorrow. Hint, hint. And then we have a sleepy time sleep mode model source that follows general types, has some predictions. We can go ahead and just get this, which we'll go ahead and save back in my MLH folder right into sleepy time. We'll go ahead and save that in there. And boom, that's our model trained. I know, right? So cool. Such an easy way to get started in terms of actually training an ML model. We went from a CSV file that had a bunch of stuff in it to fully trained model within 15 minutes, and 5 of those were me having technical difficulties. So pretty sweet setup. We'll go ahead and, as you can see, I put the little GitHub link to the file. So you can kind of follow along. And just to walk through the instructions really quickly again, you create a new document, have it use tabular regression, click next, save it wherever you need to. Then within that part of it, you'll go ahead and open up the training data. You'll add in the training data set as the data you downloaded. Leave validation and testing data as is. Your target will be actual sleep. Your features will be the other 3 variables. Press train, click output, get the file, save it within our project. Boom, done. Wonderful. And then we'll go ahead and get started on working through our application and actually developing the parts that incorporate our little machine learning. B, also go ahead and create then an application that actually, we can use. So I'd say that's a pretty good deal, all things considered. So yeah, we'll be going ahead and just getting started with that. If I can get some things figured out, which I think I can. So perfect. Yeah, awesome. All right, so there'll be a couple of things we need for actually developing the application. And I'm going to also go ahead and share my Swift screen again. So I can go ahead and exit out of that, exit out of this, and then we'll go ahead and present my screen if it will let me, which it might not. Okay, perfect. Got it. We'll close out of that and then we'll, yeah, that'll work. Awesome. Okay, sharing that, adding that. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So just to start, we'll go ahead and we have our sleep mode view here. And right now, all that it is that it's, as you can see kind of on this side, just a screen. It says hello world. I'm gonna go ahead and expand this a little bit so you can see it on both sides. But yeah, just a phone, just says hello world, which I guess makes sense because the only thing in our view is just some text that says hello world. But we'll have a couple of different things that we deal with here, and we can go ahead and work through actually creating that aspect of our application. So first thing we'll need for our application is we'll need a couple of variables that we store our wake up time, our sleep amount, our stress amount, and a host of other things. So we'll start with a private variable that has our wake up time, and that will just store, should store a default wake time, but do I get a default wake time from anywhere? I do. Perfect. Okay. So we'll have a private variable called wake up that'll store a bunch of information. I don't know why I added a semicolon. We don't need that. We'll need a private variable called sleep amount, which is going to be our default hours of sleep that we're going to aim for, which for me is going to be 8 hours, 8.0 to be precise. And then we're going to put in our default stress level, which for me, I would say recently it's been about a 5. And then we'll go ahead and work through here. Like I said, I was like, we should have a default wake up time. I don't have that set up yet. That's because that's the next step. So we'll actually be using, we'll be using the date class within Swift, which is a very powerful tool for creating a default date. So we'll do var components, and we'll create a date component, and then we'll just set our default to probably be somewhere around 7 a.m. Seems like a good time to wake up. 7 a.m. was the start time of the stream for me. So, hopefully I'll be awake by then. Calendar, current, date, components. Or we'll go ahead and pull the current date if we, for whatever reason, can't do that. So to explain kind of what this does, I cannot find default wake up time in scope, but I just made default wake up time. Oh, I called the default wake time. Oops. So yeah, that's how basic debugging works sometimes. Lovely. All right, so we can launch our application and look at it on the simulator, but we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to go ahead and look at it on the preview. And right now we can see nothing because these are just variables that we've saved. So for what this kind of does is a state variable allows us to store some information that our user gives us. So anything like an input or, like something to the slide on a bar, anything like that, we can use a state private variable to go ahead and take care of that. So we have a default wake time, like I said, like it's stored within a wake up variable that we can modify, a sleep amount that we can modify, and a stress amount that we can modify. And then the next thing we'll be doing is we'll actually be creating the views in which people can interact with our application. So we'll wrap the whole thing in a navigation view. And the reason why we'll do this is because it'll be more helpful once we develop other parts of the application. So we'll go ahead and wrap the whole thing in a navigation view and then add in the text to hello world just to see that everything's working fine. Which, there you go, our text is hello world still. If I change it to be hello world with 3 exclamation points, we're very excited to hello world today. Then 3 exclamation points show up. And then we'll go ahead and create a form. And the form is, the form or like the form wrappers is something that we'll use to say, hey, I'm going to give a bunch of input here as a user. And then we'll divide our input up into a couple of sections. We'll do section. How many sections? I think 4 sections should be good. We'll do section, a section, section, and just another section. Perfect. Yeah, just to show you, if I were to pop my text hello world in here, then it shows up like that. If I were to pop text hello world in here, hello world in here, and hello world in here. And then if I were to say hi world, world, that changes all the text individually. So what we can go ahead and do is we can create some text labels now that just pretty much say, hey, like, let us give a bunch more information about what we're actually trying to accomplish with this application. So first thing is we want to ask our user is, when do you want to wake up? We'll ask him genuinely, when do you want to wake up? And then, like, I'm looking at this text and I'm like, this looks kind of bland. I really don't like the way that this looks. And also, if I'm groggy and tired and trying to figure out when I'm going to go ahead and wake up, like, that font is not doing it. So I'll make it bigger. Do a headline font. Boom. Bold text. Super fun. And then what we can do now is within that section, like, great, I have a label that says, when do you want to wake up? But then I have no way to actually show, like, when I want to wake up, which is kind of a bummer. So we'll use something called the date picker. And this is a built-in Swift class that lets you pretty much like put in some information. And in here, we'll give it a little label that says, please enter a time. And we'll go ahead and say that, if the thing that I want to modify is my little wake up variable that I set earlier. And then I say that for displaying it, I really don't need it to display like January 1st. So I'll just do .hour and minute. And that just says only display the hour and minute. And that says, when do you want to wake up? And then please enter a time. We can add a little colon. And then, yeah, awesome. And then we can actually hide the labels if we want. Labels hidden. That just shows us to, like, you can just have it at 7 a.m. I can change it to 9 a.m. I can change it to 9:52 or 9:51. I can change it to 11:52 p.m. at night. Whatever works for me. I'll just set it to a time that's good wake up to aim for. 8:52 a.m. probably when I would have woken up was I not running this stream. Let's see. Go ahead and deal with that. And then we have our next section here in which I want to focus on the desired amount of sleep. And in here, I'm once again going to be consistent, and I'm going to give myself the headline font just to get it nice and bold. And then I want to have a way to select sleep that's kind of, I can step through some stuff and figure out some good ranges of values. So yeah, I'm seeing some comments in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and address those really quickly. Is there a tutorial for how to install the software? If you have a Mac, it's just Xcode on the App Store. It's a pretty easy process. If you don't have a Mac, it's a lot more complicated outside the scope of this tutorial. And yeah, too long to explain, like 10 minutes. So that's a part. If you missed the first part of the stream, we'll have it live streamed, and also just so you can join part 2 if you'd like tomorrow. What we can do is we can actually go ahead and I'll work on posting the code to GitHub. And so you can follow along with part 2 starting tomorrow. If you want to learn more about natural language processing, stuff like that. And then the registration link, I don't know actually, which is unfortunate, but oh well. Some of the swag drop, I actually have no idea. For those of you who missed this part, this is my first time doing an MLH live stream, so I don't know. But going back to our like little parts here, we'll be actually going to extracting this value from our sleep amount, hours, and so that will just let us see how many hours we're sleeping. And then we'll go ahead and give it a value of sleep amount. So that's the variable we're actually changing. And then we want to set some bounds on how much, like what values are reasonable to sleep. We can't sleep negative hours. So right now, if I were to launch this, I can sleep negative 12 hours, or I can sleep 25 hours, for example, if I were to go all the way up. So yeah, we don't want it to be that, right? We want to set some reasonable amount of sleep. I know we're hackers, but still, we'll go from 4 to 12 is like our ideal goal, and then we'll do a step of 0.25. So that does allow us to increment in pretty much 15-minute increments. So if I were to do it now, I can do 7.75 hours, 7.5 hours, 7.25, 7, and then at 4, I won't be able to go down anymore. And then if I go all the way up, I won't be able to go up to past 12 either. So that's how we can select the sleep amount, and that impacts our actual sleep amount variable, because as you can see in here, we're extracting the value of sleep amount, and then we're also setting it. So we're calling the value from sleep amount, and then we're, it says 12 hours because I've changed it. When I keep changing it, it changes it to 10 or 8 or 6 or whatever it happens to be. That's our second part of the application actual view. And then we're going to talk about the fun part, which is today's stress levels. Woo! So today's stress levels. We'll go ahead and add in here font headline. Like I said, big fan of the bold text. And then we'll do another stepper, which you can go ahead and loop through all this. So we'll do something very similar. So we'll extract the value from stress amount. So the way you do that is you do the backwards, what is that? Backward slash, there it is. And then the actual variable that we're extracting, which in our case is the stress amount variable. And then we could go ahead and add in a value that we'll be modifying, which in our case is going to be the $ stress amount. And then we can go ahead and add in an in, so like a bounce. We'll bound our stress from 1 to 10. Not the word 2, but 1 to 10. And since the default step is just 1, we should be go ahead and good to go. So I start it, today's stress level is 1, today's stress level is 10. Can't go anywhere higher or lower than that. And then, yeah. We'll do some colons. We'll do, the date picker. We'll change it to when do you want to. We'll be a little bit more formal. And then we'll go ahead and actually work on a fun little part, which is the actual part in which we integrate the two separate things that we're working on. So we integrate this application with, with our main machine learning model that we trained earlier. The way that we'll be doing that is we'll actually create a new function that we'll call calculate bedtime. And we'll write the calculate bedtime function in a second, and it'll return a string. So this is how you write functions in Swift. You give it a name. This is the return type. And here there would be any variables we put in. But for us, we'll go ahead and for now say we'll just return, let's just return 9:30 p.m., just the string 9:30 p.m. And so for the section right in here, we'll put, your optimal wind down time is, and then we'll do font headline again. And then we'll do some text, and we'll call our calculate bedtime method. And then we'll modify font. Those are just some modifiers that I have to make the font a little nicer. And then So this is the crux of our application. So as you can see, if I put in, I want to wake up at 10 a.m., I want to sleep for 7 hours, and I had a really stressful day. What we're going to work on now is have it not return 9:30 p.m., right? We're going to actually work on it using our machine learning model and using that information to create our application. So I changed this to 0:30 p.m., or I can change this to gibberish and say, hi, my name is Kari, right? Obviously, that's not a very great bedtime, nor wide time really. But right now, our function just returns a random string we give it. But that sounds lame for a sleep tracker. So, that's kind of honestly not very worth it. So what we'll do is we'll actually go ahead and use this super fun stuff with SwiftUI called Core ML. And this is like create ML, a way for us to incorporate machine learning into our applications. So we'll go ahead and add in an import to use Core ML, and then we'll go ahead and work on our calculate bedtime function. So we'll do let bedtime be a string, and then we'll do a couple of things in our function. And so we'll do a do catch, which pretty much means, hey, attempt to do a bunch of this stuff, and if it doesn't work, well, here's what we want to do. So then what we'll do is we'll set our bedtime to be the string, sorry, there's a problem calculating your bedtime. And we'll just return the bedtime. What should we do when it actually does work? Like, we've made the case where, like, okay, like, we try and, get some stuff from our data set, and then we are like, okay, but if it doesn't work, I want you to just say, sorry, there was a problem calculating your bedtime. Which, like, great, but, what are we doing here that we need to say, sorry, there was a problem calculating your bedtime, just in case? We're actually going to create a couple of things. So we'll create a configuration. We'll call it config, and we'll just use ML model configuration. That's just a class or a type of object within the core ML framework that allows us to do a bunch of stuff. And then we'll create a model, which is going to try to get sleepy time testing, or try to get our sleep mode model. But you're like, wait, how can we get our sleep mode model if we haven't added it? Well, that's what we need to do next. So we'll go ahead and go back to where we saved our model. If you remember, we had sleepy time sleep mode and sleepy time sleep mode, both as an ML model and an ML project. So what we can do is we can actually drag and drop this directly into it and directly into our directory. So what I do, because I'm spoiled, is I just drag and drop it into Swift. And then usually it says, copy items if needed. And then I just go ahead and do that, and then I pop it in, and then boom, we have our sleepy time sleep mode model, and it has all the other information that we showed up onto it in our file earlier. So we'll now try and access sleepy time sleep mode, which is a model, and then we'll just give it a configuration that conforms to the config we made earlier. So just a default ML model configuration. And so we're trying to do this because we say, hey, I have this model called sleepy time sleep mode, and I'm going to give you a configuration, but I don't know whether it's actually going to work. And so if it doesn't work, what I want you to deal with is I want you to catch this error and like just tell my user, like, hey, I had an issue doing this, so I can't really do it. And then what we are actually going to do is we're going to work on pulling that data and displaying it in a nice way. So right now, we had that data in seconds for the bedtime that we wanted, and that's nowhere near ideal calendar at current. That gets us our current date and hour from wake up time. So we do .hour and .minute from wake up. And right now we still don't have a return because, well, we haven't made one yet, but we'll be returning bedtime. And then we'll let hour be components, which we made somewhere up here earlier. That's our date component. We'll have it be components.hour or 0 multiplied by 60 by 60. And then we'll do let minute. This just converts it from seconds to minutes and then to hours. What you'll see is then components.minute will have 0 if we can't get it, and then multiply that out by 60 to get it to convert from seconds to minutes. And then what we'll do is we'll make, say, like I have this model that you've tried to connect to, and I have my optimal wake up time in hours, and like convert it from hours and minutes to seconds so that you can read it. So now I want to actually make a prediction on, when am I supposed to rest for the day? So let prediction be a try model.prediction. Swift, I love Swift for this stuff. Like, I can be like, I want to make a prediction. So I'll try to make a model.prediction. And then boom. And then we have some inputs. So our input, we have 3 inputs as we defined. We have awake input. We have an estimated sleep input. And we have a stress input. So for our wake, we'll do a double of our hour plus our minute. So this converts our date component into something that the model can read. For our estimated sleep, that one's easy. We just have our sleep amount. And then finally, for our stress, we have a double of our stress amount. We'll go ahead and let that error run, which looks all good. And then we'll do let sleep time equal to wake up minus the prediction of actual sleep. So pretty much what this is doing is saying that, like if I got 9 hours of actual sleep, right, and I went to bed at 10 p.m. and I woke up at 8 a.m., right? Like then that's 10 hours of sleep. But, I've had a really stressful day, so it took me a longer time to fall asleep. That's pretty much the idea. And then we'll do let date of sleep time be our sleep time formatted. And we'll omit the date because we don't care about the actual day. And then we'll do our time, we'll do shortened just to not include like the milliseconds. And then we'll do bedtime, which we'll do as a string. So within our string, we'll unwrap the date of sleep time. And then we should be able to return our bedtime and have the application have return statements in both instances and load on this right-hand side here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Fingers crossed. It's preparing, it's running, it's running, it's running, it's running. Lovely. All right, so, let's plug in some data here just to make sure that we're not, haven't made something that doesn't work. I want to wake up at 12 p.m. tomorrow. I want to get like 11 hours of sleep. I'm tired. And I had, honestly, a super chill day. So, with my stress level being 1, my desired sleep time being 11 hours, my desired wake up time being 12 p.m., I want to wake up at 12:38 a.m. If I want to get 12 hours of sleep, 11:38 p.m. I had a really stressful day. Should probably start resting, a little earlier. I want to wake up, say, a lot earlier. I want to wake up at 5 this morning, right? And I can't get 12 hours of sleep. There's no way that's happening. I'm just going to aim for like 6 hours of sleep. But I had a super stressful day. Time to head to bed at 8:30. Or at least try and think about heading to bed at 8:30. If I want to get 4 hours of sleep, You can probably stretch to like 10:30 if you had a super stressful day, and something close to midnight if you haven't, closer to 1 if you had a really chill day. But that's kind of just your optimal wind down time. And so yeah, in this tutorial, what we've managed to accomplish so far, and we'll run it on a physical device, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. Or not on a physical device, we'll run it on a simulator, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So let's go ahead and loop through what our entire application accomplished. So we'll share my screen for, just the iPhone 14 Pro right here for our simulator. So yeah, here's what our simulator is showing. Maybe, can you see it? Yes, you can. Lovely. So on the simulator, you can see we've added the ability to, we've used the core data ML framework. It allows us to add an event, say item at 2/7/23, 8:23:29 a.m., which is the time right now over here. And I can delete an entry from 7:17 a.m. I can edit entries. I can add more entries. And then the actual crux of our application for today is I can click this little button. And then in here I can say, okay, it defaults to, 7 a.m., 8 hours of sleep, 5 stress level, which is like, try to get to bed around 9:42, That's generally decent advice, at least in my personal experience. Like, we'll go ahead and work through that. So, I want to wake up at like 8:15. We'll go through that loop, right? Actually, you know what? Let's do 8:18. I want to wake up specifically at 8:18 a.m. And I want to sleep for 7 hours. And I had kind of a stressful day yesterday. So, I try to get to bed around 11:32 a.m. Let's use my day today, for example, right? I woke up at 5:50 to try and get for the live stream. I wanted to make sure I had at least 6 hours of sleep. And I had not a very stressful day. Try to get to bed around 11 p.m. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can, test out any super extreme scenarios, like I want to go to 4 hours of sleep, but I want to do it at, I won't wake up at 5 p.m., right? Can do it different levels and all that. But yeah, that's pretty much for testing out. If I'm working the night shift, right, and I'm trying to go to bed at 5, trying to wake up for 6 p.m., right? Try and go to bed around 6 a.m., probably a good bet. If I had a more stressful day, try and get there a little bit earlier. But yeah, that's for that. And then we can go back, and then we can talk about what we'll be doing in part 2 of the workshop on Wednesday, tomorrow. So part of what we'll be working on is we'll be actually changing up this part. So instead of saying, like, you might be like, why is this just like item at whatever? Like, that doesn't seem super relevant. Yeah, so what we'll actually be able to do is we'll be able to modify this text, and instead I'll actually show you what it looks like on the final completed app that I made. So you can kind of see what we'll be doing on Tuesday or on Wednesday. So yeah, this is my final completed version. As you can see, we still have our little moon, and that's what it looks like over here. And then we have our little sun. And so it says, how did you sleep overnight? And then you can be like, I slept well. And then boom, it's happy. Or you can be like, I slept bad. And then it's sad. Or you can be like, I slept okay. And it's average. And then you can choose an emoji to describe your sleep, which you can do with keyboard input. And then if you click on an emoji, you can be like, I got lots of sleep, right? As an example. And then I'll save that, and then we'll go back, and then boom, we have sleep journals from January 28th, January 1st, February 6th, February 7th. Click on this one. I'm like, sleep journal from February 7th, where I'm like, I got lots of sleep. The NLP model rated the sleep as a smiley face. You describe the sleep as a ZZZ. And they can edit, delete, and then go ahead, and we'll be working on that. So as you can see, it like creates a system. And I was like, this sleep journal from January 31st says, I could not sleep at all. Fell asleep at 3 a.m. and was late to class this morning. This NLP model rated the sleep as a frowny face, and you described the sleep as a sobbing emoji. So that will be what we'll be doing at the stream on Wednesday. But we wrapped up a little earlier than I expected, which is awesome because despite all the technical difficulties, we managed to get things done. So thank you to everybody who was able to join me. It was awesome having you all on the stream, getting through my, first set of nervous jitters. as a little Kari from MLH person. The files will be on the Kari MLH GitHub later today, just so you can go ahead and, if you know, got lost somewhere along the way in part 1, didn't necessarily feel comfortable asking questions or anything, I'll post the code all on GitHub so you can go ahead and take a look. I can also show it on the screen really quick. Actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and walk through it just before I hop off for the stream, since we do have a little bit of extra time. We'll go ahead and let me present my screen. Perfect. So if you can see my screen right now, which you should be able to. Perfect. So you can see on here, the two things we did is the first part we worked on was actually adding this moon symbol to our toolbar. So this allows us to go into our wind down tracker mode. So this is a navigation bar leading item that links to a sleep mode view and is labeled sleep mode with our image power sleep. And that's how we get to our sleep mode view. And then the second part that we worked on is, importing our SwiftUI and Core ML framework. So imported SwiftUI, imported Core ML, created a structure that has sleep model view. We have a wake up time, sleep amount, stress amount, all set as random, or all set as variables that seemed reasonable to set, and then modified either as we'll be using, 7 a.m. as a valid wake up component, or the current date if for whatever reason, we don't want to set it as 7 a.m. or we can't access the date components at hour and minute. And then we have the form that we actually worked on creating in Swift. So we went through and divided it into sections. So that's why we get these little distinctions. We have what time do you want to wake up, and a date picker that lets us pick just the time we want to wake up, anything from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. and everything in between. Anything from midnight to 11:59. And then just to show you, if I do 12:00 a.m. and then I can do 11:59 p.m. Yep, there you go. And then let's say you don't desired amount of sleep. We did that as a stepper, incremented it so that it goes up in 15-minute increments, from 4 to 12 hours of desired sleep, just because this is our within the constraints of our training data set too, and just allows us to do a bunch of stuff. And then we have stress levels that we can incorporate, anything from 1 to 10, which we can also increment and decrement in the same way. You can change this to be a slider potentially. I just use steppers because I like the little buttons. I think it makes a lot of sense intuitively. And then we have an optimal wind down time in which we use the calculate bedtime method. And the calculate bedtime method, we create a machine learning model configuration. We use our sleepy time sleep mode model, which we trained within our application using the create ML framework earlier. We have components that we pull from the date and time, give the specific hour and minute at which we want to wake up, use the model to feed the model our predicted wake up time or our desired wake up time, our estimated our amount of sleep that we're seeking to do, and our stress amount as a double. And then we determine our sleep time based on the time that we wake up and the prediction of actual sleep that we got, and then we get our time that we went to sleep formatted into a string or formatted into a date, get that extracted as a string, and then return it. And then we also have some basic error catching on the way. And then, that is the project that we worked on. So I, got to show off part 2, which is very exciting, but I do hope you will be able to join me for part 2 tomorrow. And we'll be playing Scribblio before. So that'll be a really fun way, I think, to get started. So thank you all for coming. Lovely stream. And was wonderful to get to hang out with y'all this morning. Ready? Bye, everybody.